Hello, everyone. My name is Adrienne Trimble, and I'm representing the Collin County Business Alliance today. Today, we're having a discussion with one of our wonderful elected officials here in the Collin County area. It's a part of a conversation of casual fireside chats that we're hosting, and this one focuses on why I ran for office. We're doing this in conjunction with Local Profile. And this series really aims to highlight the personal journey of our community leaders who hold key positions in office, and it's meant to really inspire others to step forward and think about ways that they can support the community and also look to join any type of elected official position or candidacy. So again, my name is Adrienne Trimble, and on behalf of the Collin County Business Alliance, I'll be in conversation today with a great friend of mine and wonderful leader in our community, Judge Angela Tucker. She is one of the leading community members of the electoral here in the Collin County area, has been in place since 2012. And at the time of her election, she was the first African-American judge to serve in Collin County. I'm so excited to learn a little bit more about her journey into office, the lessons she learned along the way, the inspiration that she brings to all of us, and again, so that we can hopefully encourage others to think about running for office in our community. Judge Tucker, why don't you start off by first just telling us about your journey, your career. How did you end up where you are today?
I grew up in small town Texas, Sherman, Texas. So born and raised, I'm a Texas native. I decided in third grade, I wanted to be a lawyer and never deviated from that. So I went to UT. I had a 5-year scholarship, but I finished in 3.5 years because I knew I had 3 more years of law school. So I went to law school in Dallas at SMU. And then my first job out of law school was Collin County District Attorney's Office. So that's how I came to Collin County. So went into private practice and practiced for 12 years before taking the bench. And my bench is a general jurisdiction court.
When you think about how you actually became a judge in 2012, when did you first know that you wanted to run for this position?
Even though I knew I wanted to be an attorney, being a judge was not on my radar. I had volunteered to help other candidates on their campaigns, work the polls, stuffed envelopes, all those things, but never was it on my radar because I did not want to enter the ugliness of politics. And so I was fine being a lawyer. I loved my practice. I loved what I was doing. My practice was doing very well. But I started to get encouragement from other women that were on the bench, my peers, other lawyers saying, Angie, I think you should run. And I was like, no way. I'll write a check for somebody else. I'll hold a sign for somebody else, but not me. And so you get that encouragement from people that that you trust, that you respect. And then I started to see individuals running for office that honestly, I was like, is this really somebody that I would want to practice in front of? Is this someone that I think should be on the bench? And the answer was no. And so I think quite often we will talk about it with each other, another colleague or, everyone saying, oh my gosh, can you believe this person's running? But we don't do anything about it. And so I just decided that I could be the individual that's, complaining at the water cooler, or I could be the individual that stepped up and said, okay, I will run. I'm qualified. I know I can do this, and I know I can do it better than the individuals that I'm seeing. And so that's kind of what got me on this road.
How did you prepare to run, and how did this network of allies help you with it as you think about how those others that might be contemplating running for some type of office?
Some of the best advice I got when I got ready to run was from a mentor. And she said, trust no one. And she said, not even me, which blew my mind because I'm like, you're one of my closest friends. I would talk to you about anything. But she said, don't even trust me, Angie. That's how serious this is. So when you're talking about assembling your inner circle, which you have to have on a campaign, it has to be those individuals that you would trust, with your life, trust with your kids, the people that, I can share this information with this person and it's not going to go any further than this person. So I did. I was very blessed to have close friends, family members to be my inner circle that you need. And in politics, as I said, it's so negative. sometimes. And you have to be careful because your opponent will send someone over to your camp and act like they're volunteering for you, but they're really just getting information for your opponent. And that's why I say it's so important that your inner circle be those individuals that you know that you can trust no matter what.
One of the things I think would be helpful is, as you think about when you got started, how did you go about your fundraising efforts? When you think about those that you're, asking for support and those who really want to see you win, how did you approach those types of discussions?
For women, I think it's really hard for us to ask for money. So with campaigning, though, it costs money to run a campaign, whether it's mailers or the signs, all those things. And so you kind of have to get over that hurdle to a point where you're asking everybody, for dollars. My race was a little more difficult because the judge was retiring, but I was running against his son. And so some of the lawyers, so typically that's where judges, if you're running for a judicial office, the lawyers are going to be the people that write you the checks because obviously, they're invested in it. They're going to be practicing in front of you or those are your friends. And so it was a little more difficult for me because the judge was still on the bench. And so they were worried about kind of backlash from the judge that they were still practicing in front of. So while I want to write you a check, I can't write you a check because if he knows I'm writing you a check, then that may adversely affect my client in the courtroom. And so again, bringing in the ugliness of politics, that's not how it should be. But of course, those things happen. And so I just had to seek out other sources. So my church family, my school family, community leaders, business organizations, everyone was very, very generous. And it didn't matter to me if I got a $2,500 check or I had 100 people write me a $25 check because it all equals the same at the end. And so to me, it's even better to get those smaller checks because that means I have more voters. So if one person writes me a $2,500 check, I may have that one vote. But if 100 people write me a $25 check, I know I have those 100 votes. I think that's a good way to look at it. But yes, fundraising is difficult.
If you think about it in terms of, now that you're here and, being a judge as long as you have been and the impact that you've been able to make, what are some of the most of your accomplishments that you're most proud of? And how do you feel that you've made a difference sitting on the bench now?
From a personal standpoint, it would be, opening up the world of possibilities for people that look like me. So when I grew up and decided I wanted to be a lawyer, I didn't see anyone in my hometown that looked like me. Certainly not a woman that was an attorney. I didn't see a female in my hometown that was an attorney until I was in law school, and went back to intern, and certainly not a person of color. And so now when we can have, summer interns come up and they are every race, creed, color, gender, but they can see someone that looks like them on the bench. I think that is so beneficial because it's representation. And when they look at me, young kids, law students, whoever it is, I want them to say, if she can do it, I can do it too.
We know that Collin County has the reputation of being the fastest growing county in the nation. Not only have we surpassed the 1 million population mark in 2018, but the landscape in Collin County continues to become even more diverse. Mm-hmm. However, we're not seeing the same diversity reflected in the candidate pipeline. Why do you think that is, and what do you think we can do to change it?
Oftentimes when I'm in a meeting, I'm the only person of color. So that's always kind of been my norm. But I think some people, if that's not your norm, it can be somewhat uncomfortable for you to enter a setting, a meeting, an event where you're the only person of color. And so I think that sometimes makes people feel like they're not welcome there because they don't see someone that looks like them. To me, it doesn't mean I'm not supposed to be in that space. I'm supposed to be there just like anyone else. And so I think that's kind of the approach that we have to take, that if everyone believes that they're not supposed to be there, then no one ever enters the room. And we have these conversations about being in the room or being in the boardroom or being at the table, to have these conversations. Well, if you're not there, then no one is representing your perspective. And I think that's very important. So I think the first step is just getting started. And sometimes to me, that's the hardest thing, is just to say, okay, I'm going to make up my mind and I'm going to do this. Running for office, as I said earlier, is not for the weak at heart by any means. I mean, so you have to have some tough skin. And so I think all those things are things that factor in to kind of an underlying fear that prevents a person from starting the journey. But if you feel like you're called, and I do use that word because we are servant leaders. If you are really doing this for the right reason, you're the person for the job, you truly are called to serve the community.
If there is one final piece of advice that you would give to someone that wants to run for office, what would that be?
I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got from someone that I consider a mentor is to get out there first, and then everyone is chasing you. So we already talked about making that decision and your first steps. And so once you're to that point that you decide this is what I'm going to do, then I would say just jump in and don't hesitate. Get out there, because if you're the first person, then some people are going to fall off because they're going to say that person is already there. And then if you're already getting your name out and that sort of thing, then again, that's more exposure for you. So I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I got was to get out there first, and then let everyone that's coming behind you, they're chasing you because you're the front runner.
Thank you so much, Judge Tucker. Thank you for all that you do for our community. Thank you for giving back and for being so open and being so candid. And we appreciate your time this afternoon. We know that you are an extremely busy person. So we just thank you for the opportunity to hear about your background and hopefully continue to inspire those that may choose to run for an elected position someday.